Good evening. Thank you for joining our show. Today we have special guest, Westminster Councilwoman Kimberly Ho.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Ho, and I'm a councilwoman of City of Westminster of District 3. So I represent District 3, and thank you for inviting me on
Thank
the
you,
show.
Mrs. Kimberly. My name is Tri Lam. Today I'm here to just have a couple questions regarding the last council meeting at Westminster Hall. Okay. Would you mind answer?
Of course not. Just so the viewers know that Tree Lamp is on my set today, so you might recognize the background. And I'm hoping that he would stay on and host or co-host the show in the future, because we do need the English version, on a regular basis.
It will be my honor.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So, okay, so you want me to answer some questions?
So before I ask you a question, so if you don't want to answer, just go ahead and say no, because some question might inappropriate for you to answer, but I just go ahead to ask anyway.
All right, I will do my best.
So as you know, I usually show up at Westminster Council meeting.
I've seen you, yes.
But today, I just want to see face-to-face asking questions.
Okay.
In regard of let's say the last meeting, that the mayor, Charlie Ching-Nguyen, who show up late, like almost 30 minutes late, and raising a lot of questions within the community. Would you mind answer why it happened and what's going on? Because we don't know anything what happened that day.
Actually, I did not even know myself that he was going to be late. I only noticed that it was around 6:05, and our meeting hadn't started yet. So around that time, I turned around and I looked at Vice Mayor Nam Quang-Nguyen, and I said, "Okay, you're on." So I figured that, well, that's definitely the job of the vice mayor, is when the mayor isn't there for whatever reason, if he's detained at another meeting or if he's in traffic, etc. It was, we weren't, going to let the public wait on us like that.
But so, he didn't make any call to let you guys know what's going on, he's going to be late? No. Obviously, everybody has cell phone. He could have made a call to city manager. Yeah. Right?
Usually, I would suppose that if the city manager or the city attorney knows about the situation, they would have let us know. But we were just sitting around waiting for him. So I only assumed that he was late. Chief Charlie, the mayor, he actually comes late quite a few times to events.
But
so
not not that much though, like 30 minutes.
True, yes. Right? It was around about 25-30 minutes. And so I was a bit shocked that, we had to start late like that. Right. My thought was, okay, Nam Quang, the vice mayor, should take over, because that is the job of the vice mayor.
Correct.
To take over and make sure we start on time. Like around 6:05, 5 minutes later.
So you did inform and let Nam Quang, the vice mayor, to host the show. But what was his reaction? Why didn't he do it?
Well, as you know, he's usually seated next to me, and so I said, "Nam Quang, you're on," and he said, "Oh, he didn't know how to do this, and that he's never done it before," and so I think there was a lot of hesitancy. And so, I didn't push him, but I did say that, you're on, that's the job of the vice mayor.
Right, but you couldn't do it because the vice mayor got to do first. If vice mayor absent, then you could just, go ahead and replace.
Well, I mean, that has never happened before, but I don't think so. It's usually the mayor and then the vice mayor.
Actually, it happened during that show.
It has. During the show, during that time. But you know what? If you're talking about the time when they left, well, our meeting pretty much came to a halt when all three left the meeting.
Yeah, but we just jumped into that.
We'll talk about that later.
Let's
so
talk
the
about
show
the
really
beginning.
wasn't on.
Right.
The show came to a stop, came to a halt. Is what
Let's
I'm
talk
saying.
about from the beginning, and then because I was outside trying to interview the special guest, which is David Young, right?
Oh yes.
We were outside waiting for him, but coincidentally he showed up late at the same time as Mayor Charlie Ching-Nguyen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed, I don't know, I didn't record a time when, when we have the oral meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Westminster regulated 3 minutes from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you speak Vietnamese and you have a translator,
Right.
they would extend to 6 minutes.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And then usually when we went out to raise our voice, at 6 minutes time, the clock is stopped, and
Mm-hmm.
I heard the voice, the sound of the alarm.
Mm-hmm.
But for that day, David Young sounded like he had more than 6 minutes and nobody stopped him. Can
Yes.
you give us why it's happening? Why he's treating special?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised myself, but nothing surprised me anymore actually, because I've seen quite a lot of unusual things that just never happened before, such as that. I know that a couple of people, I believe, from his entourage, from David Young's entourage, wanted to give minutes to the other person. Do you remember?
But we tried that before, but they didn't let us.
And initially they didn't let. It was
Yeah.
more like the city attorney
Right.
said, no, you can't do that.
Right.
And then it was from his entourage. It might have been like the brother giving time
Right.
to another brother. And then after that, it was Mr. David Young who went to the podium with his, I believe was his daughter. Then he was, and then after he ran out of time, then, we thought, okay, she wasn't supposed to give him her time, because
But
as
she
you
did.
see, evident was just right before that, the two weren't supposed to, they weren't allowed.
Before that,
Yeah.
we talked, we spoke with David
Yeah.
Young's brother. And he told us their plan that they're gonna give up their 3 minutes time to David Young. And I said,
Oh.
no, that's never happened in the city.
Mm.
They didn't let us.
Right.
And he said, no, you will see. And then that's exactly what happened. So
Yeah, I do feel like, they were given special privilege, that's for sure, because that's never happened.
I
Very
would call,
special.
for my opinion, it's favoritism.
Mm.
Or for other races, they would call for racism.
Mm.
So that's just my opinion. If I'm a different race, like if I'm not the yellow skin,
Mhm.
I'm a white race, I'm a black race, I would say it's racism, because you allowed your same race to get more time than other races.
I tend to agree with you
Racism,
there. Yeah.
favoritism, and somewhat they call it, I don't know. But I call it favoritism, racism.
Yeah, I
Just
was
because
very
just
shocked.
because he billionaire doesn't mean he got a treat special. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and also a friend and a donor,
Correct.
etc. Yeah.
Right. And then I remember during his speech, after his speech, Amy Fanquest, the councilwoman Amy Fanquest, on the what she said was she apologized on the Westminster resident behalf, and
Yeah.
that sounds like for me is unprofessional, because she tried to represent all the Westminster
Right. Yeah.
resident to apologize to David Young, that because he returned the what is it called,
The recognition.
recognition
Yeah.
of the certificate. So to me that was unprofessional from the councilwoman of Westminster.
Right. She has to remember that she is representing District 1 and District 1 only. So I did remember that, and when she made a statement that she apologized on behalf of
Right.
the city of Westminster, which is really, number one, is that, she doesn't represent the district, all of Westminster, and I think she just, she needs to apologize because she really misspoke, you know.
Which she didn't.
And right, and I believe that Councilmember Carlos Manzo, who spoke right after her, representing District 2, he voiced his opinion. I believe he said right away that he basically didn't even know Mr. David Young, so how could he even apologize for something that he didn't know about because he wasn't invited and he didn't know the person at all. So. Yeah.
But when was it your turn? Then they tried to stop you because they said only 2 members can speak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I still have a very hard time with the city attorney because, as you noticed that, and you've been there quite a few times, almost every single time I seem to remember. And so, you remember how he mentioned like about a month or 2 ago, and he said, our city attorney said, okay, everybody could speak, but then only briefly.
Right.
And of course, as you know, the VABA agenda, or shall I say the recognition, the rescinding of that recognition, was my agenda. Do you remember?
Right.
And that was like just the meeting prior to that. That was my agenda. So it would make sense that I get
for
to
you
speak.
to talk more, right?
Yeah. And if anything, I would get to speak, first. But I don't care about being first to speak or not, as long as I get to speak. And then when I had to fight with the city attorney, as you remember, had to voice my opinion loudly, and I said, no, I totally objected to that because that was just, showing favoritism. It showed that he wasn't consistent, and so all of that. And so then finally I got to speak, and I believe the mayor, Chi Charlie, also was. He
tried to stop you too because he.
I don't remember. I don't recall that, but I know that he also voiced his opinion. Okay. I just didn't get to hear exactly because it was just so many people speaking at the same time, including myself. So when I did get to speak, as you could see, I was very cordial. I only wanted to thank Mr. David Young for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then after that, I guess they left, and then we followed David Young and tried to interview him. But then, during the interview, we noticed Amy Famquest left the podium and came outside and say sorry again, apologized to me and David Young, saying that as a businesswoman to a businessman, she wants to apologize. And that's another unprofessional of the city council woman that left the podium, even though there's a bunch of a lot of residents that was sitting inside the podium, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, we weren't inside, we were outside. Was there any reaction from the resident when maybe they didn't know that why did Amy Fan West left the podium for? Right?
I believe they all knew because she left almost immediately after Mr. David Young, and she left for a long time. Yeah. And then I think following her was the mayor as well as the vice mayor.
Well, following her is Vice Mayor Nam Kwan came out and shook hands with David Young, his daughter, and I guess just another apologize and. The same thing. I'm gonna say this is unprofessional, being the representing the Westminster resident as a vice mayor and a councilwoman, and then right after that, Mr. Mayor Charlie, came out, but instead of shaking his David Young in front of the camera, he went we went around and talked to David Young's daughter. But wasn't in front of the camera, but he came out and talked to them.
I see. So, well, for us, just so you know, from our standpoint, sitting from the dais, we were there. Our meeting supposed to start at 6, and it got started at 6:30, and then it got all of a sudden, all that happened, and then we had to stop our meeting because obviously we didn't have the majority. The majority of the 3 left, and so it was leaving just myself and Carlos Manzo, the councilman of District 2. So we couldn't carry on the meeting.
City manager didn't say anything? Or was he
city manager didn't say, and city attorney didn't say. And that's when one of the reasons why I'm having such a hard time with them, because it's like, why are they not saying anything. And I think that they should at least say, all right, the meeting is now officially come to a stop because we don't have a majority. But they didn't say that either, but definitely we couldn't carry on the meeting at all.
Let me ask you this.
Just
So
having to-
what is the job of city manager? Like, is she overwatching what mayor doing, or just when we have an oral meeting like this, city manager is there to do what? I mean,
Well, I believe the city manager has to take notes of what is going on and being told, although she's not taking minutes, that's what we have the city clerk for,
okay.
is to take minutes in more detail, but then she at least take notes of what is being asked of her staff to do. And so she would, so I would assume that those notes she would continue to refer to when she has her staff meeting and etc., or what is being told or expected of her in terms of just pretty much anything. So she's there, and I believe that she's also there to make sure information were being transpired correctly. But when we talk about the legal aspect, we have to focus on Mr. Christian Bettenhausen, who's our city attorney, because he obviously, I feel that he didn't do his job.
I feel like he takes side.
Yeah, I do feel, and I think the public also feel that way, and that's really unfortunately, because I mean, I like him as an individual, and I only wish for him to succeed and do well in the city too. But I think we need to be very objective and communicate with him. I have to communicate with him, which I did, that he's not being fair, because as you remember, when I spoke, I intended to speak and go and abide by the rule that we could speak to make a short statement. But you saw Amy West, Councilwoman of District 1, she spoke.
This is not the first time.
She wanted to finish, her thoughts.
And this is not the first time.
Right.
She's done so many times.
Yes. And so then right after she finished speaking, the city attorney, tried to stop, but I don't think he meant to stop Mr. Carlos Manzo from speaking. I think he just wanted to, before Carlos could start speaking, he wanted to let everybody know, the rest of the council, that only 2 people could speak, and I totally disagree with that until this day.
Only 2 people could speak, but Amy Fanwest mentioned about you and mentioned about Carlos, but you cannot speak.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, how fair is that?
You don't have the time to clear out what Amy Fanwest tried to.
Exactly. And I know that we weren't going to get into a discussion, because he and I did speak today about the issue for the first time today. And I did say that, he said, well, he has no right to tell people what to say or what to do, the council people. And I said, no, you did, but you did. You did tell us that we could not, more than 2 people could not speak. And then you also, he did say to me today that the councilwoman, Amy Fanwest, made some inflammatory remarks, and but yet he didn't stop her. And not only inflammatory, the type of remark it was, he didn't stop her from saying or continuing on, but she made it very lengthy, which was contrary to what he told us to do.
You don't
keep it short.
I know, but as a viewer, as the audience, I look at the city council members as like a professional people who representing the Westminster city, right? But within the member of council members, right? Are you guys supposed to be united in front of everybody versus fighting each other for who's right, who's wrong? You can talk about that after the meeting. Hey, that's not the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. But in front of the public, I mean, maybe it's freedom of speech. Maybe that's but to me, it's unprofessional that try to talk about another people,
Well,
raise opinion about another members like that. This is unprofessional. And
yeah, I totally agree with you, but if I may add one more thing is that she's rather new on the council and she doesn't really have a good grasp. And although she's been told numerous times, basically, when something isn't agendized, the VABA, Mr. Zong, Mr. David Zong, who came before us, we didn't have to have an agenda in order for him to speak, but for us to discuss, we had to have it agendized in order to discuss, and it wasn't on the agenda. So she went on and was like, as if it was an agenda. So, if I were to reply to her, then it would be a discussion. Then for sure we couldn't discuss, and that would be a Brown Act issue.
right.
Yeah, for sure.
Was there?
So-
You think it happened coincidentally that? What I'm thinking, maybe because David Young was late, for maybe his plan was delayed. Therefore, Charlie Ching will show up late. So the show, could extend longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know anything about David Zong, Mr. Zong coming that day. But I did hear a lot of discussions after, and people were saying the same thing you're saying now, is that maybe all this delay was to help Mr. David Young, because as public comments, you never know whether they're going to be 100 people or they're going to be 10 people, and it would go really quickly.
Right.
I said, well, it might be possible that, the mayor wanted to just hold up the meeting until Mr. Zong could get there. Not knowing ahead, there's no way we would know ahead how many speakers, right? So if the public speaking part goes really fast, then he would lose the opportunity to speak.
Correct.
Yeah. So in hindsight, that could have been the case. And so I think a lot of people are saying that was the case. So they were very affirmative.
Because until now, he didn't even clear himself. Like, why did he show up late? Right? There should be a legit reason.
Yeah, and as for myself, because Mayor Chi Charlie is always late. He's late to a lot of events. I mean, most of the events, and sometimes when. So usually he's the person with the recognition or the proclamation, and so the rest of us would go on stage without the proclamation or the recognition, and then he would come 20 minutes later or half an hour later. So I thought that was the reason. But now hearing from what people are saying to me, say, well, that's a possibility that he was waiting for Mr. David Zong, but I have no evidence of that.
Right. After the event of April 26th. For myself, I questioning so it could be racism, it could be favoritism, it could be what is the word I'm trying to looking for because David Young is a famous person. Would be why would he get treated differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then might be concerned with other races as well, like a white race, a Hispanic race. What would you like to address to those who would raise concern like myself?
Well, I hope there isn't any favoritism or racism going on, but optic-wise, it does appear that, and so I can assure everybody that I will do everything I can to not take part in such a thing. So, for me, I'm very protective of the public time. What's really important to me is that we try to start our meeting on time. And so, to have the general public wait and wait, and then they watch what? It's kind of like a show and tell, or shall I say that, I really, really apologize for on behalf of myself. I cannot speak for the entire council, but you know, for what has transpired. And I think that as a council, we have to try to do better, you know, to start our meetings on time, because, you know, public time, people's time is very important. I know that's in the middle of the evening where people would prefer to be home with their families, but here they come out to speak. They want to have their turn. So I hope that the rest of the council be aware and not make people wait like that. Not only did we have to wait 25 minutes to start the meeting, and we had to wait for them to be done with this famous, or shall I say, a very rich person, you know, to be done visiting us and after his comments. So I hope that doesn't happen again. And I really apologize for everything that, you know, the public had to endure. But as for myself, I definitely want us, our city, to move forward and, you know, try to learn from our mistakes and understand what we did wrong, and that way we can correct ourselves. But if we don't understand and we make excuses, then I can tell you that the public will be very upset and that they would not tolerate. And that's how I feel.
Do you guys talk after the meeting at all? Like after council meeting, do you guys talk like what happened, what should be done better?
Well, with the Brown Act, we're not allowed to speak more than two. That means one other person, so two people can speak with one another, but not in a group of three, because that would be a Brown Act violation when we speak in a majority. So, you know, we try to agendize anything that we're unhappy about, and in closed meeting, closed session, which usually is before the meeting. Right. So usually from like sometimes from 4 to 6, we meet 2 hours ahead. It depends on if it's a heavy agenda in a closed meeting, and anything that perhaps we should put on the agenda for a closed session to discuss things like this. And I think that's really a great idea.
To improve in the future.
Yeah, to you know, to talk about what went on that was wrong.
Right.
Yeah, definitely to improve. Yeah.
I mean, when I was in military, you know, after the mission, we always gather around, do the, you know, what's the pros, what's the con, what did we do wrong, what could be better, you know what I mean? And then the next mission, we wouldn't make a mistake again. But sound like the Westminster Council haven't done that yet, because I know I was there one time there, and I told Charlie Chingwen that he's a leader, he should follow, I mean, he should lead as an example. Right. At least he show up early, you know. Usually we do military time, you know, 15 minutes early on every event. But at least he show up early or on time to lead an example, because we looking at him as a whole team, represent a whole team. So if one of the team members do something wrong or he does something wrong, it affects the whole team. And I hope after this interview, the city council members would take some of our advice to improve for the next meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, thank you for making that comment, because that is going to prompt me to put on the agenda for our closed meeting to discuss the issue, just whatever issue, anything, any grievances, anything. Doesn't mean that people are going to accept that it's their fault or anything. I just think that we just need to open up and discuss, and perhaps bring up some of the comments that the public has made, and it may be, if they're not aware of some of the observations or comments, then the closed session will probably give them some ideas, and we all could improve on on our actions, and you know, and hopefully in the future, you know, we will improve a lot more. And because people don't want to sit through a lengthy meeting, as you know, that night our meeting didn't end until midnight. It was supposed to end at 10, and if we just cut out, previously we've had to extend our meeting until 11, but if we add the 25 minutes or 30 minutes at the beginning and then another about 20 to 25 minutes, so about an hour that we had to wait, the public had to wait, and had to wait some more for people to come out, go out and shake hands and come back and resume the meeting. So that's another hour. So we would have ended at 11 if we didn't have those.
Yeah, but then after that, you could just add an extra 15 minutes to talk about what have we done, to get the improvement.
Yeah, I think that needs to be agendized in a closed session.
Right.
And I think that's a great idea, and I'm going to do that for this coming meeting, or maybe the following meeting, since the deadline's probably missed.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much for attending the interview today. Looking forward to see you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you. And I do notice that you come to every meeting, almost every meeting, correct? And for the last a few months.
Yes.
So I hope you continue to come and continue to give me some feedback, and everybody else.
We'll do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.